What has been the most destructive lie in human history? Radium paint isn't poisonous. Thousands of watch dial workers in the US used to apply radium brushes on their tongues to paint numbers on watch dials, and almost all of these workers were women. As these workers were dying due to radiation poisoning, the companies brought in fake doctors and convinced the victims and their families that they have venereal diseases like syphilis. As this was mostly affecting women, most were scared to share it with their families for fear of retaliation and abandonment. The suffering endured by these women was extremely awful. Their jaws fell off, their bones fractured, their hair was lost, and most lost eyesight until their eventual painful death. These women were called radium girls. Eventually many fought back, settled lawsuits, and brought the entire radium production industry down. Unfortunately, many innocent women lost their lives before this evil industry was brought down. Thomas Midgley and General Motors lying that exposure to tetraethyl lead is harmless. Tetraethyl lead was a gasoline additive present in all gasoline sold in the US until it was banned in the 70s. Almost every child growing up from 1920 to 1970 had lead poisoning to some degree. Entire generations grew up with their minds being poisoned, unable to reach their potentials because of him. Not to mention the secondary effects, lead exposure is associated with criminal behaviors. The 1964 Surgeon General's report concluded that smoking cigarettes causes death and disease. However, in a 1971 television interview, the president of Philip Morris denied the health risks that pregnant women and their babies face, saying that it's true that babies born from women who smoke are smaller, but they are just as healthy as the babies born to women who do not smoke. Some women would prefer to have smaller babies. Nestlé, the baby killer scandal. They deliberately lied to mothers in developing countries to sell their baby formula, telling them that their own milk was nutritionally insufficient and their babies would be unhealthy if they continued to breastfeed them. The result of this marketing campaign was approximately 66,000 infant mortalities. A specific historical example: in 1843, a man called Hong Xiuquan claimed to be the younger brother of Jesus. This led to him starting the Taiping Rebellion, which caused the deaths of between 20 million and 70 million people. Then again, he probably believed it, so it might not count as a lie. I have read and agree to the terms of use. This applies to 100% of the population. Not one person reads those forms. There's nobody. OxyContin isn't addictive. I was in a car accident, was given a prescription for OxyContin. Doc told me get off it as soon as you can manage your pain with over-the-counter drugs. I was on it for 10 days. 10 days. I experienced withdrawal symptoms when I quit. The idea we need to keep purchasing new clothes to stay in the trend. It's genius, really. A large number of humans are so insecure about how they look, they just need someone to say wear this and you will look great and fit in. Then insecure people buy it because it's an automatic way of being considered normal and part of society. Never mind the fact that Crocs only look good on less than 1% of people. If they are on trend, then just buy them and others will respect you. Wait. People buy Crocs because they think they look good? Is this some sort of joke? The idea that we are separate and disconnected from each other and our environment. Edit. My first awards, thanks. Good timing, I guess. One of the most insidious aspects of this, and the one I think people rebel/get defense about the most, is that this separation is because we are masters of our environment, which feeds into the notion that we can just technology our way through every problem, because after all, if we are separate from our environment, we aren't part of nature. In reality, we are so fundamentally interconnected to our environment and every part of it. We delude ourselves that we aren't, we separate ourselves from it, and I truly feel this damage goes far beyond just physical. I think it harms our social and mental health in very deep ways. If you don't have to care about your environment, take any responsibility or care for the basic parts of our world that we are interconnected to and rely upon, how can we connect with and care for others in deep and meaningful ways? Tobacco isn't harmful. Using the internet isn't traceable. Global warming isn't real. Christopher Columbus peacefully found North America. The Vietnam War was started off of a real incident and wasn't fabricated. I think peaceful needed the quotes rather than found. He did find it. It wasn't the first finding by any human, of course. There were people already here, and the Vikings also discovered a different part of it long before. However, it was a discovery for Europe at the time. One that led to very significant historical interactions and immigrations. Ericsson's discovery 500 years earlier kind of stayed with the Vikings and didn't lead to the Americas being colonized on a large scale. And to my knowledge no American discovered Europe or Africa before that going the other way, and certainly didn't open things up between the continents. Columbus did find America, and it was very significant for good or ill. The peacefully part on the other hand is total BS. Columbus was straight up evil. He became an invader of the worst kind. Duck that guy. What's something most people think is healthy today that future people will shake their heads at? Social media. I'm being super hypocritical, but we're gonna look back on social media today the same way our parents looked back on the time they smoked and said, yeah, everybody smoked back then, it really wasn't a big deal. Yeah, we knew it wasn't good for you, but we still did it anyway. No, we didn't think of it as some sort of addiction. We just did it because that's what people did back then. The amount of our lives we share with strangers online thinking we're anonymous. The unhealthy obsession with work. Grind, hustle, side hustle, etc. Sure, work hard when you work. But work someplace you can have a work-life balance that is healthy and doesn't demand too much of you. Vaping instead of smoking. You're still filling your lungs with stuff that shouldn't be there in the end. Looks like more research is coming out about the risks too. It's not as bad as smoking, but it's got its own issues. It's fine if you're using vapes and e-cigs to quit smoking, but it's gone beyond that for quite some time now. Many people just exchanged one habit for the other. 40-hour work week with generally unfulfilling jobs. Source, I'm a clinical psychologist. Edit, wasn't expecting this much attention. For the record, I don't think my own job is unfulfilling. However, my current salary is not competitive and I have to work 2 side jobs to support my family. Psychologists probably don't make as much as you think. Children going to class and sitting in school all day 5 days a week for 12 years. Lack of access/time in nature. Moved out of a city into a smaller town 2 blocks from the ocean with many bike trails and hikes within cycling distance/a short drive. I couldn't be happier with the change. On the other hand, I'm now house poor, with greater than 50% of net income going to housing. Daily time in nature makes the change worth it. I already believe that the majority of fitness influencers would benefit from counseling rather than advising followers on Instagram, so that's undoubtedly the case. Also influencers in general. Most are completely unqualified to be dispensing the level of advice they give on most topics. Very short video formats, TikTok, Instagram stories, YouTube shorts, and their impact on our attention span. Does anyone think that is healthy now? Not healthy really, but this is such a new phenomenon that people don't really question it. Even short post formats like in Reddit can cause this, because you can scroll through a lot of posts in just a single minute. Giving babies, toddlers, and small children unlimited access to tablets, phones, and screens in general. Even those that have limits, kids and babies on tablets is unhealthy for brain development. This is a huge issue. Kids needing a constant doom scroll through videos and entertainment or else they throw a tantrum. Chemo in the future is going to be the same as how we look at medieval cures and practices. No need to wait for the future. Everyone is perfectly aware the idea is basically to hope you'll survive the therapy longer than whatever you're trying to kill. There were bound to be medical practices in the past that people knew were horrible but had no other choice because medicine hadn't advanced yet. We're just at the exact same point in our time where yes, we're aware it's awful but we don't have advanced enough medicine to do much about it. Our self-awareness isn't going to stop the people of the future looking back at chemotherapy as being absolutely barbaric. Energy drinks. I'll be amazed if there aren't some long-term effects of drinking can of Red Bull/Monster etc. Does anyone think those are healthy now though? I guess as a product they're not seen as healthy. But I'd argue that the people who drink them think it's good for them in some way to give them a boost. It's certainly marketed that way with their associations with sports etc.